Welcome back to Inverness Nights. A couple things before we get started. First of all, I've changed the settings from last time. I had these cranked all the way to max in the first video because the game is coming through like really quietly on my end for some reason, and then I had to overcompensate for that in editing, but hopefully this will work out better. Also, just generally speaking, I apologize if I sound congested at all. I'm not like sick with anything, it's just that my nose has been stuffy this whole winter, and that will probably continue to be the case. But having said all that, let's continue with the story. A knock comes while I'm elbow deep in petticoat. I've got my hands full. There's no lock.
I hope you're excited. The robe fabric is lower grade, but just as old. Ooh, look what you've done. I didn't think you'd be able to center the designs on the scallops.
Then why add that to her specifications? I want to check the fit before I start attaching the frills and the trim.
Right. A moment to take this off. I'll leave the fabric by the armchair. I don't want to interrupt while you're concentrating.
Yet you are anyway.
But you're frowning.
Yes?
Is something wrong?
No. Nothing new.
You haven't mentioned any problems.
As long as the fit is off.
Can you shut it about the fit?
I had shut it. You're the one who pried it back open.
I thought you'd let it go. Please. Let it go.
She stares as though I robbed her of the ability to blink. Eyes perfectly still. I pick up the roll of fabric she brought in with her. I walk it over to the dress form. I start experimenting, checking weight, drape, weave, peeking around the microphone so I can see the lines. She remains stuck in place. She'd be a flawless dress form herself.
Shall I continue the story?
If you're mad at me, better to leave for the day.
Are you going to keep pushing my boundaries?
No.
Then why do I need to leave?
Why would you want to stay?
Don't you want to keep listening?
Is the story even for my benefit? She pulls her pink petticoat back around her waist and takes a melodramatic breath. The trio neared the port of Thessaloniki, the first major destination within Greece, well westward of Constantinople, but still shadowed beneath it. Fury, Mariana, and Sinbad sailed through a gloomy day, gloomier than the Mediterranean should ever be. So gloomy, in fact, the weather was better described as a storm. Wind whipped at the ship, battering it over the waves, back and forth, slanting along crests and sinking into crevices between them. Mariana was shaken to the point of sickness. Fury and Sinbad were beaten and exhausted, trying to keep their little vessel under control. The shore finally rose from the sea. The branching brown fingers of the docks were an inviting sight. Sinbad took their invitation too early. His fashionable silk slippers were crafted for social attraction, not the functional kind. Slipping along the deck, he flailed for a hold. The rigging, while happy to catch those who didn't want to be caught, seemed to writhe from his hands. At hip height, the bulwark was also unhelpful. Performing a neat flip into the water, Sinbad disappeared. A 5-second splash of red on the waves, dragged in the opposite direction of the boat. Fury yelled and made to catch him, but even in a flat-bottomed vessel the reach was too far, too late. Steering needed to be done. Mariana was strong, but storms needed technique to sail. He returned to the tiller, slower than the wind demanded. The boat dragged into dock, far from sunk, but with a snapped mast, frayed lashings on the quarter rudder, torn sails, and missing slats across the deck and bulwark. Bluster and downpour easing, Fury and Mariana weighed anchor and hurried inland. Sodden to the spirit, they dripped through the door of a local inn. Neither was in the mood for haggling. They paid 4 more coins than the room was worth. As they set to bed, Mariana jostled under her blanket.
We should have stopped.
A bolt of lightning clattered outside the window. Fury's eyes were lit, and they held the glow some moments longer than the sky. Sinbad isn't made of paper. I'm sure... His eyes flared without any help from the weather. I'm sure he'll be fine. Do you like secrets? Everyone liked secrets. Fury liked spilling them in particular. Before Mariana could formally affirm her interest, he tipped the contents of his mind out through his mouth. We've been together almost 200 years, and we always survive these things, so he'll be okay. If Sinbad wasn't, Fury would tip himself into the ocean, as flippant with his life as he was with privacy. The next day, they walked to the docks. Someone's god had mercifully tamed the tides, and the cog was set on flat water. After taking stock of the damage, Fury made to town and acquired repair supplies. They were about to fix work by lunchtime, Mariana stitching the sail into a full sheet while Fury organized the new mast, and the narrator's tummy rumbled for some reason, even though she had just eaten like an hour ago. Seriously, what the hell, stomach? Anyway, the sun set, taking their energy with it. No sign of Sinbad. There was more to fix. They could wait for him. On the second day, Fury fitted replacement slats, while Mariana checked food and cargo were intact. Each of Fury's hammer strikes contained 500 years of nautical experience. Faster, cleaner, better than a career carpenter's. The wood mismatched the original planks, but the skill of Fury's handiwork made it less of a defect and more of a character trait. In the afternoon, they went to Thessaloniki's marketplace and traded for a relief of Castor and Pollux. It gave them another hour of productivity, banging it into place above the cabin door. Procrastination is harder to decry when it involves work. There was an hour of sunlight left. Fury and Mariana sat on the end of the dock. With the ocean so flat, any movement on it should have been visible. There were gulls above. There were fish and cephalopods below. There was nothing between. No creature or criminal in the median. The only castaway from the storm was a gray cloud splaying across the sky. When the stars came out, they went in. No weather, no waves, no footsteps in the dark. Fury spoke in a whisper. I don't think he's coming back. Mariana allowed the thought to slip by. I heard there are Byzantine forces arriving here in 2 days. Fury's concerns voiced, he rolled over and closed his eyes. The rain began again. Mariana counted lightning strikes until she reached sleep. The third day, they boarded the cog. Mariana had to be taught how to hoist the anchor and lower the sails. Yanking too hard, she detached a few lines of the rigging. An hour had to be spared instructing her on how to retie them. Thessaloniki pressured their departure with the weight of boredom. Mariana finally understood the knots. Maybe they could lose the rudder? Before the pair could create a new delay, impractically gentle footsteps padded behind them. His jacket held on to some of the water. His hair was messy, his pants had sunk. His eyes were buoyed with happiness. You waited, he said. We had repairs keeping us. Fury embraced him tighter than any ocean could and hauled him aboard. What's your excuse? I came ashore miles off. I had to walk in the rain. I'm famished. By Mariana's checklist, they left for Athens with all cargo in its place. 24 soldiers took the town behind them and made their way to the portside inn. Aquila was ostensibly there on broader Latin hunting duties, but he had to ask, Have you seen a woman in blue and gold, accompanied by 2 men? One would be Persian. The innkeeper advised she was with a single man, and he was Italian. Aquila struck the table triumphantly, imagining what dagger had been driven into the Persian, pretending to plunge it himself. Creepy. They were bound for Athens. He would gain permission in a ship, and he would be bound there too. Another premature ending. Are you coming back tomorrow?
I assumed I would be?
Well, the fitting is done.
You said you'd have to substitute some trims, didn't you?
I did.
May I see them tomorrow?
I can't think of a reasonable objection.
Fantastic.
Why so insistent on visiting again?
Good afternoon, then. I'm excited to see what you'll offer in the morning.
She reaches for the door. I'll reach for her.
Let go of my arm.
What's the point of the story?
Measure me, fine, but I prefer you don't touch me.
It's as though I'm clutching ice. The shafts of bone beneath my hand are too close, the flesh too cold.
Tristram.
Why are you so cold?
Would you let go?
I obey.
You weren't supposed to do that. Not yet.
Another one of her exaggerated breaths. I never see her taking any other kind.
Ask tomorrow.
The door closes. Shell is gone. I work through the night, to the morning and its questions. She knocks as a courtesy. The door swings open. Her limbs are loose and her head is hanging. It takes her a moment to string herself into composure.
Beautiful.
Strange. Thank you. Compliments make these blisters worthwhile.
Your fingers weren't calloused before?
The details require a smaller needle than my norm. Different stress on my skin.
I'd apologize for saddling you with such an odd job, but I figure I'm paying too much for that. Why tailoring, anyhow? Not the professional...
That's not that word.
Not the profession I'd see you in if I saw you on the street.
Due to my size?
Most tailors aren't so... sturdy.
Not in England, no. Half our men have muscle left over from fighting.
That's what you did?
What?
Fighting.
Yes. You'll be unsurprised to learn I was fighting for the Jacobites.
You're right. I am unsurprised.
She might have been surprised if I'd been honest. Mentioned the last war I participated in predated the Jacobean era, though it marched the same paces and places as later conflicts. Our battles turned proverbially south as favor turned to the literal south. I wanted a safer career. With our economy so unstable, the best line of work was one people would always need.
No love for sewing?
I like it enough.
You learned drafting, draping, and mantua making just because you saw money in it.
Given how much you've paid, would that be so wrong?
As long as it makes you happy.
Happy. Discussing my work with someone so wealthy is a pointless pursuit.
Is it?
Pleasure is easy to purchase and hard to earn.
Stern words.
I'm a stern man.
Dismiss me if you want, but I haven't always had money.
You're scattering solid gold for costumes. It may be a recent education, but I dare say you've learnt about buying happiness.
Happiness? I'm buying clothes.
That in mind, why do you need this robe?
It's none of your business.
What if I need to know for business purposes?
Tristram.
Shell. I won't push so hard as to be unprofessional, but given I'm risking my life for you, a little more information.
You undersold the importance of your trip.
I'll turn my linings if you turn yours. She sweeps toward the corner. Her skirts seep underneath the furniture as she passes. Sinking her weight onto one side of the armchair, her attention makes land on my window frame.
I don't know who I was before last week. I stuttered when I said my name because I don't have a real answer. My shoes are broken, my petticoat's unraveling, and plenty of mishaps could have brought me here.
You're an amnesiac.
Maybe.
Do you have any suspicions?
About who I am?
She stands, turns, and walks back to me. Each joint moves with a slight delay, as if she's reviewing the sequence as she cues it.
I could be a courtesan, dressed for high-class customers.
Then how did the gold come about?
Overpayment from a client? Underpayment?
Londoners have too much money.
You don't think I'm worth it?
I don't want to think about that. What other possibilities have you considered?
Maybe I'm just rich.
You'd be quite tan for nobility. Holy shit!
Perhaps the real reason you're a tailor is that you can't open your mouth around women without offending them.
The fashion is to be pale.
The fashion is what you make it. Isn't that the point of your job?
My job is to continue trends, not craft new ones.
Charming. My last idea is that I'm a thief. It's my favorite option.
An interesting preference.
Thievery's exciting. You pick the right pockets, it's justice too.
You want to be Robin Hood?
Someone along those lines.
Taking from the rich, giving to the poor? You're succeeding at that already.
Exactly.
What took your memory then?
What indeed? I can tell you I woke on a table. I dressed, I ran, I met the people who directed me north. They had business in the Highlands and no one to handle it.
You have a lot of leisure time for someone on business.
Do I? Tell me, which potential life would you bank on?
I believe for the specific ending that I'm shooting for, either of these two answers will be fine, but, you know, since we're going full asshole on this particular ending, let's just assume the worst.
Honest.
It explains why no one reclaimed you after you lost your memory.
I wasn't in London long afterwards.
Enough time to find help.
True. Well, that aside, we've laid out my background. What about yours?
We've discussed my career thoroughly.
Why do you need to run?
How to answer? I'll let you ponder that while I take a drink. Perhaps with as much honesty as she used. Someone is threatening to have me arrested. She tilts her head forward, hair curtaining her features as though she's a priest in a confessional.
Do they have a reason?
Does Alistair? By his reckoning, I have committed a crime.
But not by yours.
Are you frightened?
If you wanted to steal my money, you could have left the first night.
My crime was not taking coin.
What was it? Why is it subjective?
Do you consider yourself judgmental or pious?
I don't judge, by regular standards or religious ones.
Her eyes dart down her body. She clutches her hands over her neckline, fingertips digging into her collarbone. Her fear recedes inward.
I try not to judge.
I'm planning to leave town anyway. I have the funds. Nothing to lose. Trust to gain. He's accusing me of sodomizing him.
I guess the question isn't whether or not you did.
Does it bother you?
No.
I advance on her to ensure her response wasn't contorted by the distance. No?
I have no issue with you being that way inclined.
Why not? Her eyes are still. The moment is remote. Her thoughts stuck in her stories, lost some hundreds of years ago. She loosens again, flooding with modern life.
Because men are wonderful. You were going to show me some trims, weren't you?
She pushed for that conversation. To see it abandoned so quickly. Was she repulsed after all? I was. Shall I grab them for you?
Please.
Over to the cupboard, where I keep my sheets of samples. Whenever I buy a new trim, I clip a section off and sew it into a canvas sheet. I fill each sheet with perhaps a dozen trims before starting anew. The lengths stay coiled in another cupboard. The less I touch them, the better. Avoids them tangling into inscrutable balls of color and clash. I take out 4 sheets and leave the 5th behind. All the trims on it are running too low, too old to purchase new segments of. Pattern trims are skipped these days. Plain trims can be dyed and replicated. Brocade tulips and bias-cut tartan are harder to repeat. Here we are.
Thank you.
Picking up the first sheet, she skims a finger over the offerings, moves on to the next. Her face is blank until the 3rd sheet. Her finger settles on a silk ribbon with a repeating teal and green triangle design.
This would work, wouldn't it?
I have some plain trims that run a similar color. I'll pair them together. I return to the cupboard to find them. There's an uncertain noise.
Does it make you anxious, knowing he wants you dead?
You saw the case I packed.
Were you together?
4 years.
Why now?
We had a fight.
I'm sorry.
He was a stubborn, insufferable man. Circumstance conspired. There we were.
No hope for amends?
He would have visited. I retrieve a figure-8 coil of lime trim, made some months ago for a commissioned frock hat. That's not what that word is. Frock coat. Incredible. Moving on. I saved his life when he was adamant he no longer wanted it. Sailors who haul anchors above their weight drown with them. The trims match, like I hoped. I'm going to resume work. Do you want to tell your story?
Grab your tools. We'll get going.
Thank you for understanding.
Thank you for explaining.
The sun lurched from under the clouds, dimmer than they remembered it. The city of Athens was equally disappointing. Fury trudged through the muddy streets, deflecting most attempts at conversation. I hate coming here. There's more decay every time, he eventually said. With their remaining coin in pocket, they hunted for a haberdasher. If they made dye, sewing, embellishment available to Mariana, they could resell the fabric in less conspicuous forms than the current bolts. The market, the agora, Fury insisted, feigned life. People, traders, just enough activity to call it a crowd. Supplies were easy to find. So was an alley of gambling brigands. Fury's focus flicked from dye to dye, and he moved toward them. One stood to warn him away, only to warm to him instead, smiling as he saw his face. "Porphyrius, you haven't dazed a day." "I'd say the same, but I can't see your face under that beard, Luciano." "What a place to meet." "I'm returning to Venice in a few months." Mariana had stalled at the mouth of the alley. With Fury disappearing down the throat, slapping backs and whooping at bad rolls, she was wary of intruding. Sinbad sidled over to her and settled a hand on her arm.
He usually finds some person or another. Best practice is to let him be.
Curling his fingers into her sleeve, he gave it a tug.
I'd prefer to be somewhere calmer.
Leaving the heart of the city for one of its blue-tinged arteries, the pair found a quiet patch of grass. The ground was damp, but with so many layers of clothing, it didn't bother them. Small walls of chipped marble surrounded their resting place. This was more to Mariana's liking. The narrator muted her microphone to take a sip of water. Sufficiently hydrated, the narrator continued. She breathed sharply.
Is something wrong?
Sinbad asked.
There are questions I want to ask Fury. I don't think he'd answer them.
Sinbad smiled and leaned back against one of the walls. He closed his eyes and folded his arms, forming a comfortable cocoon.
I'll explain as best I can.
She breathed slow.
Why take me with you? I know I asked. Why go along with it?
Fury isn't picky. It's more interesting to say yes. Sole time he's denied passage was a Roman friend prone to mutiny.
Why wasn't he worried about you until 2 days after you went overboard?
Believe this or not, I won't be offended if you choose not. Fury and I aren't normal people. Theft and adventuring aside, we're immortals of a sort.
Witches?
Nothing that bad. I couldn't explain to you why we are how we are, but we are, so we try to make it interesting. Of course, his idea of interesting involves more heists than mine.
Do you dislike his extravagance?
Oh no, it's what I love most. And he needs someone to temper it for practicality. I do that, I handle the rigging, I keep the books balanced and the maps dry. We sail happily.
Was breaking into my work your idea or his?
Mine initially. I thought it'd be profitable. We were close to broke. Constantinople, those trading restrictions. I didn't expect anyone to be there. Her questions continued on, until finally she was interrogating Sinbad about the countries he'd seen, and the other immortals he'd met. A Maghrebi pirate who had committed her life to the accumulation of coin, and succeeded such that she could buy out minor nations were she interested in spending it. A Syrian historian convinced he held divine right to rule the world. An Azerbaijani bureaucrat convinced he needed paperwork to prove it. A Moroccan adventurer on a quest to see every great ancient building, his charcoal artist sister sketching each expedition. A whole pantheon of characters set to live forever. Mariana's eyes grew wider with each story, until she asked,
If you're going to live forever, why waste effort on fabric?
Fury agreed to take it because it was valuable. I asked to take it because, at the outset of everything, I was a silk trader, as were my father and grandfather and so on. Fabric is a constant. I started with it, I discovered my immortality, and now I have to keep working with it to make sure I don't go mad with homesickness.
Why not return to Persia?
It's nostalgia for a time rather than love for a place, especially with my faith and my trade absent from its current cultural climate. No, I'll keep doing this until the day I die. Maybe even after. When I'm dead, I want Fury to take my body to where the vultures are. Lying in the heat, flesh bitten apart or burnt hard, until finally, there's nothing to me but blood and bones in a leather bag of skin. That's when I'll set this work behind me.
I thought you were immortal.
As I said, of a sort. We've had friends who died from wounds or starvation or drowning. We don't get sick or old, but we certainly die, in all the least pleasant ways.
You have an exit.
Precisely. And what we lack in resistance to wounds and asphyxiation, we make up for in other ways. Most of us, at least.
Oh?
I have no clue if he's mentioned it, but Fury's able to heal bleeding and broken bones. It's quite fun to watch. He waves his hands, they're good as new. Our friends can do other party tricks. The Azerbaijani can freeze things at his touch, and the Moroccan duo can control flames.
What about you?
I can't do anything yet. Some figure it out, some don't. I'm not fussed. He stood, grass stains on his coat and trousers. Fury could only have so many things to say to his countrymen, and they could only tolerate him for so long. Mariana took the hint and eased to her feet. She walked alongside Sinbad, her features softer than usual. Granted, this was the same step in hardness as sapphire to topaz. Her lips fished open and shut, with questions formed and discarded. Sinbad's expression was a mix of frustration and contemplation. He held his hands at chest height and peered into them. He wasn't a palm reader. Attempts at finding the future in them were futile. Fury was in the alley where they'd left him. At his side, a bolt of silk. The silk they had intended to leave on the ship.
Why is that there?
Mariana asked. He winked past her, to Sinbad, to the spirit of camaraderie, of begging for forgiveness when asking for permission from a 6-foot woman is too daunting. The dice left his hand and toppled across the pavestones. Another bad throw, Fury. Best get a second length of that silk. Mariana's face blanched whiter than a diamond. She grabbed Fury by the neck of his overshirt and hauled him to his feet.
We're leaving.
No, Beard Brigand replied, getting up from his seat. Porphyrius had his throw. It's gone bad.
Sinbad and I didn't agree to this.
Mariana continued her stride. Porphyrius did. If you think we care what you agree to, well. Beard beckoned to his cohorts. They rose, leaving 2 seated with the prizes and the dice. Snake eyes. Sinbad read the pair of dots, read the blade Beard was close to brandishing, and snatched Mariana's hand. The trio launched into the bustle of the crowd, Beard and company shortly behind them. Within moments, shoppers filled the gap between the 2 parties, buying Mariana, Fury, and Sinbad time to step up their sprint. It didn't take long for the human obstacle course to dissipate. When it did, the brigands were no longer visible. The stones alternated as mud and back with every meter they moved from the city market. They would have to watch their footing. The trio pulled a tight corner, weaving through rundown alleys.
How far to port?
Mariana had hitched up her skirts to sprint. Her footsteps were solid and certain. If we keep this pace, 15, 20 minutes, have we lost them? We can slow down if you want. Fury's toes caught in his billowing trousers. He stumbled and regained his balance.
I can't see them anymore, so...
The tip of Sinbad's shoe dug into the mud. His other foot, unable to balance, slid out behind him. He flopped forward like a puppet with cut strings. Muck oozed into the creases of his face. He writhed, caught between the twin urges to panic and to stand. Mariana bent and offered her arm as a climbing tool. Sinbad accepted. Stabilizing, he pulled off his shoes and threw them over his shoulders.
Twice is enough.
The sprint picked up again. 20 minutes, as per Fury's guess. Uneventful. No further mistakes from Sinbad, no intrusions from Beard and band. Still, arriving at the Piraeus, they wasted no time weighing anchor and setting for sea. Some towns died honorable deaths. Others became ghouls. Athens had clung to life too long. Fury would have advocated running, one way or another. Hours later, as the afternoon sky shuffled its curtains nearer together, a cluster of soldiers entered Athens. It seemed an innocuous thing, to ask men of the law for their help enforcing it. Beard crept up to one of the visiting soldiers, a slight one in red and blue. He waved a shoe in his face to get attention. You seen any Persians running barefoot? Owes me a debt. Got a Venetian and some lady with him. Aquila caught the shoe from Beard's hand and crushed it in his grip. The Persians alive. Bad. They've been here. Good. You were chasing them? Yes. How long ago? About noon. Where to? Out of town, suppose. Port, maybe? They'll be back on the water, looking for rest. I'll find them. I can't promise their cargo, but I can promise retribution. Beard nodded, spine prickling. This was more than forcing Fury to honor his monetary dues. Thank you for your information, sailor. I suppose I'll be headed offshore again. Aquila tilted his head side to side, the bones in his neck crunching. Offshore, yes. Offshore to Salamis Island. Shell.
Yes?
You say the story explains how you got the silk. I suppose it's factual. Is everything about Porphyrius true as well?
You're listening.
Can I have an answer?
It's real. His hands would glow pink. Any damaged skin beneath them would weave together. Actually, I have a confession.
I thought you were excited to discuss the story.
We need to discuss me now. You asked why I'm so set on telling this tale? It's because I think you have the same skills as Fury.
755 years. The only people who knew were people I told. One day, someone had to figure it out independently. I was afraid this moment would arise from a witch hunt. I was afraid I'd need to deny it. Instead, I left my hands to hers. A white light fills the space between them. A pallor I never considered eases from the surface of her skin. A waxy film lifts from her eyes. She chokes and lurches away. Her fingers curl into her necklace, slide to her chest, press against the space between her breasts. Wait for a beat. She holds her palms in front of her. I had only intended to show her the glow.
You're real. He was right.
How did you find out?
After Culloden, a noble met a tailor at a crossroad, sat beside a pile of bodies. The tailor required help retrieving one. It had soapy skin and a face full of maggots, but the tailor repaired it. He went his way, and so did the noble. The noble told his family the story. They told their friends. Somebody told me.
Why play coy?
Imagine someone walking in from the street and asking if you're a witch.
Why do you care? You're young, you're healthy.
Am I?
Give me a real answer.
I've gotten ahead of myself. I have to go. Keep working. I'll be here tomorrow.
She slams the door. Her feet tap the steps. The street swallows them. Into my armchair I topple. It would be easier if the holes we opened in each other's claims leaked. Like Sinbad's, Porphyrius's, like a boat to the bottom of the ocean. Aquila advances consistently enough that the trio are doomed to a confrontation. Confrontations with higher powers never end clean. Am I alone? Shell said Sinbad said there were others. Claims twice removed. What if I was wasting time in this country, on this island, far from the world? Should I have gone offshore?